expensive.
All right, so I am going to observe that it's now 7:01.
All right.
I'm going to call this meeting to order.
Get your gavel.
I've forgotten the password to the shared email, so I don't have an editable. I'm working on converting the agenda from online to a Word doc to record minutes, unless somebody else remembers how to get into that and wants to record minutes. Don't say it. It's a password.
Oh, yeah. Didn't Margie say it on our last Zoom call to us?
We did, but we were like, I don't think we were recording, and we weren't on the public channel, you know?
Yeah. Oh, right, because we did the back channel. Sorry. I can record 2 minutes. Did you have a place that you wanted to do it specifically, or should I just pop it in the main drive?
If you could pop it in the main drive, great. Like, because I don't know where anything is in there yet. I haven't poked around in there yet. I just have a copy of the agenda, which I, got from online.
So these meetings get recorded and then put on closed cable. Is that correct, or what?
That is hilarious if that's the case.
I
know. I didn't dress for it or anything. I'm not. My hair's getting long.
Everyone's hair is getting long. It's okay.
COVID hairstyling. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. What did I do with that?
I didn't actually I'm not sure what happened, but when Steven sent out the agenda, I didn't actually get it.
Ditto. So I got okay, so the agenda is online, and are you able to get a link if I share it in the Zoom chat?
I think so.
Okay, let's give it a whirl, because I definitely found the agenda online. I just don't know how, and I can convert it to a Word doc, but I'm not able to save it. And if there's a copy of the agenda already in the drive, I don't want to recreate the wheel. You know what I mean?
There's a couple of different folders called agenda and a couple of different folders called minutes.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for whatever reason, I don't see any chats.
Me neither. Yeah. What's that all about?
Oh, hang on. Okay.
I share your screen, but that's not.
So there's often a chat function that you can access in the bottom, but I don't see it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. Okay. I will just.
All right. Never mind. There's no chats available. So I've got a Word doc copy of the agenda. I'll try and take minutes as we go.
Okay.
So public comment, no public in attendance.
Can't imagine why they weren't interested. This is such a great opportunity.
Steven had me posted on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
So maybe we might get Zoom bombed.
Oh, no, let's not and say we did. All right, we've got Mark, myself, and I'm going to look at your Zoom name, Stella. How could I forget?
Stella, yeah.
Stella. That's, sidebar, one of my favorite names.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Acceptance of minutes. Everyone here has had an opportunity to read them, yes?
Glanced over them, yeah.
Okay. And so I wanted to add 2 items that I remember bringing up. One was under the treasurer's report that I volunteered to scan the items in the binder to share on the Google Drive so everyone has access. And then under new business, I proposed gathering funds for compost along with the plot fees as for discussion this week. And now I will give a treasurer's report, and then I'll stop talking for a while. All right, so my treasurer's report is, I have no further actions to report at this time, aside from reaching out again to City Hall, produced no response the first 2 times I tried, so I've tried again this evening. And I was forwarded an email from Laura, which dated back to the beginning of September from a local landscaping company, Broad something, asking about the invoices, and I wrote them back to say, oh, it's Broadbrook Landscaping. That's who it is. Katie Sierra. I wrote her back to say, I am now the new treasurer and I'm waiting to learn the process, and I will keep you posted. So that's what I have for treasurer report.
So it sounds like it's going to be continue to be difficult, you think, to get through to City Hall, or you anticipate at some point you'll get through?
I don't know. I emailed Barbara twice earlier in the month with very specific, like, I hear sometimes that I have available if you are, and I got no response. And then at one point, Stephen asked me if I had been in touch with them, and I said, I've tried, but I haven't heard back. And then literally earlier today, Stephen wrote to me on behalf of Barbara saying that I should reach out to her colleague instead, and CC'd the two email addresses of Barbara and her colleague on the email. And I replied all, asking for a time this coming week when I could meet with.
Do you know if do they work in their offices or from home? Do you have any idea?
I don't know. I put in the email that I was willing to meet either in person or virtually, whichever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my thought crossed my mind. I wonder if they're accessible by telephone. I mean, I know that's old fashioned, but.
It honestly never occurred to me to call.
I know. I mean,
They're probably busy with the election, TBH.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. It's, people get so bombarded with emails. A lot of the times, I've heard this from other friends, they just don't get to them, or they ignore them, or it gets lost in the shuffle. And so, I'm just trying to help think about a way to get access for you, because you deserve that.
Yeah. Stephen speculated that perhaps they were busy with the election, and that's why there was no response. And like I said, literally earlier today, he wrote to me and CC'd the two of them, Barbara and Hital, about moving forward. And so I've reached out, and I've given it another shot.
Yeah, you've done everything you could. What are tell me again what their jobs are, these two individuals?
I'm afraid I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
I just know that when I did email with Barbara initially, and it's my fault that I didn't follow through on that initially, about learning how to submit invoices, she said that Hital was the person who was in charge of the green sheet process, but that she was happy to review invoices with me. And that was, I ended up not meeting with her because I ended up getting sucked into my own work instead of setting aside specific time for her and that process. So I will not make that mistake again.
I think she's the city clerk.
Is that it?
Yeah, if I'm
Do you have a last name? I forgot. Somebody's
Starts with a P.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking about a different person. I thought it was Barb LaBombard.
Oh, it is Bob LaBombard. It's Hital Patel.
Oh, yeah. Is that their person? Okay.
Yeah. Barbara LaBombard. That is a fun name to say.
Yeah, it comes trippingly off the tongue. Yeah.
All right, that's all I got. Operations report?
Who would give that, Frank?
Yeah, no Frank today.
Okay.
No Frank as of yet.
So what should I put?
No report.
No report. All right, now I have to go. Shoot, what did I do with that? So sorry, I have to find where I put that agenda. All right.
Yeah. Take your time.
Yep. Outreach report.
I think that's usually Margie for internal outreach.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess no report from Margie because she's out today. And then I think this is when I usually do the external outreach report.
Okay.
I posted on our Facebook page letting people know that they should email the garden email if they're interested in the wait list for 2021. And so I'll probably post another post in the next week or two to re-up that.
If they're interested in a plot for next year.
Yeah.
And you'll repost over the next week?
Yeah, probably next week, just to see if other folks, I don't know, see if it, can always post it to Good News Easthampton.
There you go. Okay.
The only Facebook group worth looking at except ours.
I mean, I think it's great that you get the info out there. My guess is people are maybe not thinking about next spring. What do you? I mean,
Yeah, probably not.
But it's good to put it out now, just so get people aware, get it in their brains, and then maybe in the spring. Obviously, you'll repost that in the late winter or the early spring.
Yeah.
Yep, makes sense.
All right. Thanks, Stella. Donation garden report.
I guess that's me. We have begun to see that our donations are dwindling. The actual space that's the donation garden has no more produce in it. I kind of filled in for Stephen while he was away. And on a couple occasions, there were a few things, but in general, very little. I had also mentioned to Stephen and to Margie, I said, there's a few plots there. I'm thinking of specifically D1 and D2, where there's an interesting amount of produce there and looks like it needs to be harvested, but nobody has done anything. The fellow in D2, he's got like rows of carrots and about 5 cabbages, unless he's harvested them since I was last there. And I was just saying, should somebody reach out to him and say, are you going to harvest this or not? Because this would be wonderful for the donation garden. But I don't know if Margie got through. And then in D1, I think it's Alyssa maybe has that and her partner. And there's something growing in there. They look like daikon radish, or at least white radishes or icicle. And there are just tons of them, but I don't see anybody harvesting. So I'm going, I was hopeful that Margie maybe got a hold of them and found out what was going on, because it would be a shame to see food go bad in the field just sitting there. And I've walked the gardens and I see other things of stuff that looks like it should be harvested, but it's still there. So I don't know what to say. I don't know if there's a better process for this. With regard to the donation gardens themselves, and looking forward to like next year, I had suggested or mentioned that we might want to think about having more than one plot for that and try to really focus on some vegetables or crops that would be really easy to grow and would produce, like I think green beans comes to mind. And there's probably a few others, squash, certain kinds of squash. And you put that stuff in, it's going to yield. And we could even be planful in terms of when we grow it, so that there would be, spaced out throughout the year. Oh, the other thing was, we thought maybe in the application for next year, we would kind of make it more clear that there's a kind of a hope, if not an expectation, that people will plan on contributing something from their garden to the donation effort, which goes to the community center. I think that maybe if we could kind of plant that in people's brains, So, if you're growing tomatoes, plan on, donating a few tomatoes, a bag of tomatoes, if you've got a whole bunch of them. I mean, I know people are feeding them their own families, and that obviously comes first, but I think there's a lot of families in the community who maybe are going to have food scarcity issues going forward. So that's my those are my suggestions with regard to the donation garden.
Okay.
I think that's it probably for me. Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me toggle back to the agenda. Gardener feedback is next on the agenda.
And what do you think that meant?
Do you think that's a presumption that there will be
general comments or something?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could ask, each of us could give a brief report on how it went for us this year or something like that. I don't know. How'd it go for you guys?
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah. So
Not
how about
very
you?
well.
Not very well?
No, it was a good experience. Our garden itself was didn't really work out for us this year, but.
Is there anything that the committee or any of us could do to help in the future? Was there any logistical problems that?
No, I think it was just that either we need to get a soil test and there's going to be something that's very off about the garden, which is why everything came in super, super small, or it was that we didn't know how much water we needed. There was something. Everything was bad. Everything across the board was stunted and tiny, and we're between Frank and I can't remember the couple who were the other side, and their stuff was just like an abundance. It was overflowing. So it was like,
yeah,
it was definitely a little bit sad.
That is, yeah. And like you say, maybe there's something with the soil. It's funny because
gardener error is also a very strong.
Well, we want to be kind, but it could happen, I guess.
Yeah, you want to roll it out, but
yeah,
you know.
If it makes you feel any better, Stella, I've been gardening for like 10 years now, and my garden never looks as good as I would like it to.
Yeah.
My produce is never as big as I would like it to be.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of, I think, begs the question, are there secrets that some people have that make their gardens more successful? And is that information we could be sharing going forward? Because I agree. I mean, some people look like they're, whoa, that's really great. Your kale is a mile high and all this stuff looks fantastic. So maybe, what are they doing? I mean, I'm guessing most people garden organically, but I don't know, maybe some people are using other products that help augment the growth. I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out.
I'm curious to know. I know that signing up for Garden Buddy was an option, and I'm curious to know how many people took up on that option.
I don't think I heard about that, or if I did, I forgot. Garden Buddy, you could have somebody to kind of work with you or support you.
Yeah, that was part of like the volunteer positions, was you could be a garden buddy.
Okay.
And my understanding of that was that the garden buddy would provide know-how to new gardeners. Like they could be somebody with whom a new gardener could check in and ask questions.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm not sure. I know Mia sent out an email about that, but I'm not sure if she handed it off when she had to step down from her roles, because she, I know, got pretty booked up with work. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure. It may have just kind of got lost in the shuffle.
I think you're right. I think that's what happened.
Okay.
Like a lot of things. And I think with new gardeners, it's kind of hard too, because maybe they're not used to the volunteer piece of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Actually, I see she did hand it off to some other folks, but I'm not sure they carried it on from there. So I think COVID was just hard on everyone, not really having the in-person.
That's right.
Connection.
Yeah. Although I found that going to the garden was one of the few places I could see people outside of grocery stores,
Gosh, I know.
I mean, it was at least nice to see our garden friends occasionally. Have a chat about anything, I had a long conversation with Amy, who was one of the gardeners, and I think she's going to drop out, but Amy Landau. And it was just great to have it was a sunny day, and we're just shooting the breeze at a social distance, and it's very nice.
I think that was a big factor for a lot of people this year. I know I started gardening, and it was a relief to have a space to go to that was outside.
That's right.
And it's I'm trying to think of how we can communicate that to other new potential gardeners. Like, I know that I was excited to learn about the community garden in Easthampton, but it was through word of mouth that I discovered it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think to look at City Hall for resources, the City Hall website for resources like that. So I guess what I'm trying to think of is, how could we get listed? Because if are we listed as like a recreation? And I know that's a strange thing to ask, but that is something people probably would have gone to for looking for how they spend time outside.
That's a good idea. So we're with the Conservation Commission, is that correct? Is that our parent department, or am I mistaken?
I'm not sure.
But you're right. I mean, if there's other ways to advertise within the city, and promote whatever we want to. I mean, I've always thought that the gardens could be a wonderful thing for like education. We could have some kind of training, or we could sponsor some kind of online videos or something. Actually, there's a very good video. I don't know if you guys saw the one on Netflix called Kiss the Ground. Have you seen that movie?
Mm-mm.
If you have Netflix, it might even be available through PBS. Woody Harrelson narrates it. It's about soil quality, basically,
cool.
and how we have depleted soil in this country, and that creates a lot of our problems with environmental issues, because there's not enough carbon being sucked into the ground. It's going into CO2, which is in the air, and just stays there because there's not enough plants. There's too many deserts. Very good video, but I'll forward information to folks about that in case they get a chance. But there's other things like that I think we could do to kind of spark some interest. You guys might have ideas too, so we'll go for it.
How was your gardening experience this year, Mark? I mean, is that what you wanted to say about your gardening experience?
No. I can say briefly that it was good. There were some things were better. I still struggle with getting what I would call an adequate crop of winter squash, which used to be my favorite thing because it keeps, for one thing. When I was in Amherst, I had this garden and I would get abundant harvest. So that's one of the areas that that's an area I would like to know what are the secrets of growing really, a good quantity and quality of squash. But my greens were fine. I still have kale in the garden. I got some more root crops. My carrots were better this year. I didn't grow a whole lot of tomatoes like last year, where I had an abundance of cherry tomatoes, but cabbage and broccoli were great. So yeah, some things are good, some things not so good. And I think that's always the way it is in gardens. But if there's ways we can improve or learn more, I'm eager to know. How about you, Nicole? Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I usually... So as I was saying before, it was especially beneficial for me to have the garden go to as an outside space, especially in March and April when things felt very uncertain. It was a bastion of normalcy. If you go put seeds in the earth and you take care of them, they're going to grow.
Basically, that is true.
And it was very beneficial for me to have that time and to have that sense of understanding as I was trying to understand a new scenario.
Yeah.
As so many of us were. I made a lot of what I am calling rookie mistakes this year, which is kind of embarrassing to me because, as I said earlier, I've been at this for 10 years and I learned pretty early, how to do certain things that benefited me or benefited the yield. But I planted tomatoes in what ultimately became the shade of my asparagus plants.
Oh.
Yeah.
A straight up rookie mistake. To put a tall, needs a lot of sun crop next to something that's going to get tall and block all the sun.
How did the asparagus do?
The asparagus did great.
Oh, that's good.
I had a great, I was lucky that when I got the plot, it already had the established asparagus.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. It also had strawberries, which I did a much better job of weeding in this year than I had in previous years. In part because I was, I didn't feel exhausted from work at the end of the day and felt like I had more energy to devote to my garden. I had a friend who was a first-time gardener accidentally end up with the plot next to mine.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was really nice to have somebody with whom I regularly gardened and was and tried to be a garden buddy for, and she did some, she did some first time, gardening, and as we all do on the first time, some of it worked beautifully and some of it doesn't work that well, and you just kind of gotta keep trying and try something different the next year, and I hope she'll return.
So she had an okay year for the first time.
She had the weed intimidation was high.
Mm-hmm. That's
Which,
yeah.
so I had a lot of suggestions that she didn't follow, and she chose to do things differently, and that's fine because everyone learn. And so the result was she had some plants and she got some stuff, and it wasn't as much as she was hoping for, just like kind of we all do, like we plant some stuff and it's not as much as we're hoping for sometimes.
No, sometimes.
Yeah, but I got lots of lovely lettuces this year. I got lots of lovely peas. I always tell myself I'm going to succession plant and then hardly ever do.
I know, that's hard.
Yeah, and I've got the cabbages that I grew turning into sauerkraut in my basement right now. So
Lovely.
Oh, cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
And cabbages, they get so big, you got to really do something with them, like sauerkraut or.
Yeah, mine also split because I did not.
Yeah.
I cut around September when I was getting ready to move. I just stopped going and watering, and so they went too dry for too long, and then there was a lot of rain, and they just split.
Yep.
Nothing to be done after that except make them into sauerkraut. So that's
yeah. That or go Yumkies and freeze them or something. There's.
No, I wasn't prepared to do all that process.
Or coleslaw for the masses. Oh boy. Yeah, cabbage is so abundant. It gives you so much return. Really, you have to work at consuming it.
Yeah.
My experience.
Yeah, it was all in all, it was I would consider this a very good year.
Oh, that's good to hear. Well, great. So what else? What do we got to
see? What is next? New business. Does anyone have any?
No, I think just the suggestions I made in my thing about donation, that would be, it's not new business, but that's the extent of probably anything I would add, but
Yep.
So, okay, I'll ask a question. It's not new business, but, so how many bills do we have outstanding still at this point? Like a bunch or a few?
A bunch. Yeah. I unfortunately, I don't have an exact number off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But as was previously noted, there's the ones from this year and there's the ones from previous years. Hang on one second. Laura was kind enough to set them aside for me, or let me rephrase that. She was kind enough to put them all together for me. So there's the one that was just sent from Manchester that was forwarded to me. And I have 3 additional from Manchester here. I have one for Flory Lumber. Wait, 1, 2. 2 for Flory. Then there's the outstanding ones for Broadbrook, which go back, apparently, they're not even part of this year.
Right. There's nothing from a group called Bear Path, is there?
Nope.
Okay. That was somebody we, I guess, purchased compost from previously, but it must have got paid off. And Grace still had the job, your job.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And just got to hope we can get a hold of the city hall and things will move along.
Yes, oh wait, there is something for Broadbrook. It's in an envelope. Sorry.
Okay.
This is the folks who I said I have been in touch with via email.
Okay.
So yes, there's an outstanding invoice from February of this year. in addition to, no, Bear Paths is what you asked about, not Broad.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't see anything from Bear Paths.
Oh, that's good. No news is good news. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what do we still have we have a balance in our account of like thousands of dollars, is that correct?
2,000. She gave me this report, and I want to make sure I'm reading it correctly. $2,088.20.
Oh, okay.
And this does not include the petty cash, which has not yet been given to me.
And that $2,000 was as of when? That was recently? Recent?
As of the end of January of this year.
Okay, so pretty current.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, January of this year. So that would not include money that came in for this year's garden, though, would it?
No, it would not.
Okay, because I had heard previously a figure that was like 4,000 something. That's why I'm asking. It's because I thought, oh, okay, so that must be the explanation.
That's something I can check on when I do meet with Patel. So what had happened was when I met with Laura, she walked me through like that she's clipped together the outstanding invoices, that she's created purchase orders with the city, which is basically like you set aside a certain amount of money specifically for like a particular vendor.
Right.
So she's already created them for the people with whom we owe outstanding debts and we typically use, i.e. Manchester and Fleury and Broadbrook. And then so the final piece is just me submitting them via the system that Laura hadn't learned.
So as you become more familiar with this, there'll probably be a rhythm of, if you submit it, it's going to take X amount of time to get it processed and paid, and we can count on that somehow.
Yeah, my understanding, like once I don't know what the time frame will be between submitting it to the city and the city paying it, because that is something I can ask Patel about, like what is the expected? Is it something that the city does like right away? Is it something the city does quarterly? Like is the usual turnaround month? Just so I could start telling vendors, like I've submitted it and this is the usual time frame.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I think they would like to be paid in a timely way, and I totally support that. It's like if they were a big corporation, that's one thing, but they're usually, mom and pop stores of one kind or another. So I think if we can expedite quickly, that would be the best thing. So, and then I mean, the question that comes to my mind, I think I brought it up before, although it's just something to chew on, is, well, if there's all this money there, what's the purpose of that money? What are we doing with it? Do we have any capital needs, if you will, that should be addressed? I know at one point Frank was going to do an inventory of like hoses and sprinklers to see if we need anything. I don't think he got to it, but there's certain kind of basic things that we need to be purchasing if we have there's thousands of dollars, if they're just sitting around and if they're not earmarked for anything else. Are they the city's money, or they belong to the garden project's money? I mean, how does that work, I guess?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, because I mean, maybe there's some nice things we could do to make things go better in the garden with this money. I mean, certainly if we end up using the tool shed again and we want to buy new tools or additional tools, that would be one way to do it. I think hoses, if there are hoses that need to be replaced or whatever, that we could, but still, that's not going to amount to a lot of money, is what I'm thinking. So I'm just, I just formerly have been involved in a lot of financial management stuff. So these are the kind of questions I'll always be asking. Just in hopes that we can get a little clarity.
So being new to this, like, do we continue to meet monthly over the winter?
I don't think so. Do we, Stella? I had the impression that...
I mean, this is my first year gardening, but I thought that this was supposed to be the last garden committee meeting until March.
That's right.
Maybe.
Right.
And the garden officially like sends out its, so the committee also lies fallow instead of spending the winter figuring this out.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, if there are things that we need to figure out, there's no reason why we couldn't continue to meet as needed. But what do you guys think? You think there's stuff to chew on still?
Well, yes, I think there is, especially with your proposal that we add some additional language to the coming year's application.
Yeah.
Especially if there's this idea of like identifying needs that will need to be purchased in the coming year.
Okay.
And the fact that there's at least 3 people missing from this meeting.
That's right.
So we can't really make those decisions right now.
That's true. So should that be a recommendation that we plan on having a follow-up meeting and to be determined? I mean, I don't know. People want to meet in December or they want to wait till after the first of the year. I mean, we can try to get a consensus.
Personally, I think it's better to meet sooner rather than later, because I think
Sure.
like putting a pin in it until like January might mean that we forget all of the intentions that we're talking about right now.
I hear you. I'll support that if you want to propose that we meet again in let's say early December or something like that. If that is more appealing to people, I don't know.
So do we go through this like as a formal process where I make a motion and then it gets seconded and then we all vote?
I think we'll need, if we want a quorum, then I think we're going to have to reach out and get the quorum offline.
But we can make we can agree that we concur that it would be a good idea to meet again as a threesome, as 3 people, 3 members here of the committee, that we should meet again in December to continue the discussions that have been introduced.
Sure.
And then forward that to, Frank and Margie and Stephen.
So we're not making a formal proposal. We're adding a recommendation to the minutes and noting that the 3 of us have already agreed to it.
Yeah. I think, does that work?
That works for me.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right, cool. Thanks, folks. I think that will help because, sorry, I can't talk and like make a note at the same time.
Yeah.
I personally would like to see at least, if the intention is to not meet again until March, I don't think that's enough time to make changes before if memory serves, like the application comes like right before gardening season starts.
Right.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to have further discussion around this as well.
Okay. I'll agree to that. And then, I can just be, it's the time to think about things, like you say, it's what you do in winter, plan for next year.
Okay. Any other new business?
Nope.
Do you think we should adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I second.
I concur.
All right. Have a great evening, y'all.
Good to see you guys.
See ya.
You have a good night.
See you again soon.